Hello, and welcome in, everybody. Oh, that music just brings a warmth to your heart, a smile to your face, a hole in your wallet. This is Three Guys Before the Game, episode number 282. Title of the episode is A Visit with Anthony Becht. B-E-C-H-T, Becht. Anthony. One of the rare guys who was given the name Anthony and kept it, and it didn't devolve into Tony. He's not Tony. He's Anthony. He's an Anthony.
He's an Anthony.
He's
Always
an
has
Anthony.
been since we've known him.
Yeah, absolutely. Three Guys Before the Game, being brought to us in part by the fine folks at Burdette Camping. Oh, did they have a promotion? A sentimental promotion on this episode. A new one.
Oh.
Sentimental promotion that's close to $400 off for you on a spend of $1,000.
Boy, they're on fire.
They're smoking hot. And it's also brought to us by the Mountaineer Athletic Club's Time to Climb campaign. Time to Climb campaign. It's in a pause. The website is being worked on. It resumes on Monday. Take my word for it, and I'll tell you why later. Visit, not yet, on Monday. New website, WVUtime2climb.com. I'll tell you why. We'll get into it. All right, so here we go. On our program, Anthony Becht, and your questions, comments, thoughts, and there's a bunch since the last time we convened. Kercheval is out on assignment somewhere in the continental United States. That's all we would know. That's it. Maybe he comes back. We don't know. So the senator and I, in a high-level production meeting, said, oh, guest, we need a guest. Got to talk guest. And both of us, like light bulbs over the top of our head, said, Becht. Got to be Becht. And we went through his people. You talk about tough to get this guy. I mean, it was hard. I mean, levels. You got to go through levels of people. I mean, he's got name, image, and likeness people. He's got, I don't know how the whole thing works. He's got, you got to go through his one part where you have to sign off on this thing that says anything that he says on the podcast cannot be minted as a non-fungible token. So no NFTs coming out of this podcast. Finally, we got through all the lawyer stuff. And Anthony Becht joins us. How are you, man?
That's funny, by the way. That was really good. I'll say this: if you ask Don Nealon, Dan Simmerl, and Dave McMichaels, Tony was a household name for me for those three. Now, if you ask my mom, that would never come out of her mouth.
Yeah,
so there were several people that did go with Tony, and I miss those people. Those are some great people in my life, but. Yeah, non-fungible tokens. I've not gotten involved in those things yet, and I'm kind of like that. The town mayor, the town sheriff, all those people that you just mentioned is me. So you had to get through all the loopholes of me to get me on the show. So that's pretty good. I got some pull.
I do admit that I was a bit surprised because you answered yesterday when I called you. It wasn't a full ring, and it may not have been a half a ring. It was a quarter, and all of a sudden I get, "Hey man, what's going on?" And I went like, "Ooh. Is this a voicemail? What do we got here?" And so he answered. For those that potentially may have been born not all that long ago, Mr. Becht was a student athlete at West Virginia University in the late 1990s. He left WVU as a first round pick number 27 of the entire draft in 2000, then went on to play professionally in the NFL from 2000 through 2011, so more than a decade. During those times, the Jets, the Buccaneers, the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Chiefs. Also has dabbled most recently in the coaching world. He was a All-Big East performer, honorable mention All-American, and an overall good guy. So normally what we do when we have these sessions, Senator, we go all the way back. But Anthony, in your particular case, we don't want to do that because this is what I told the senator yesterday when we were talking about this. I said, you know what, dude? I said, is he like the hardest working guy? Now take this the right way. the hardest working guy that doesn't necessarily have to work hard. I just said you played 11 years in the league, right? And yet you don't stop working. I mean, you're all over the place. You do stuff and have done stuff. The broadcast world, the television side on the sales things and shopping network and podcast and radio shows. And you got your hands probably into 9 other things that we don't even know about. And you tweet like a maniac. And the thing of it is, to me, is like, I took it away and said, isn't that the essence of why you were successful? Because you were a top 1% worker, but that's never stopped for you, even though if you wanted to, you could probably fold your feet over your feet and sit by and just chill.
Well, I think for me, I just kind of like doing things I'm passionate about. When I retired from the NFL, just seeing how guys handle the next phase and the proper way to go about it, and the positive things that I've seen and the struggles. That's why I work with the NFL and the Legends community, and I'm an ambassador for them, for the retired players, is helping that transition from when you think you're retired. Some don't get a proper retirement. You just go and you're done, right? And then and just helping those folks along. Just it's not an easy deal. It has nothing to do with how much money you have or how much money you don't have or anything. It's a different world. I had that structure, and that's what I know. But the one thing I did take out of that experience of playing football is that hard work and that effort. And I know that in the real world, that's what it takes. I mean, I don't want handouts, right? So that's kind of what it is. I want to earn everything, and I've had to do that in the TV side and the broadcast side and the radio side, and I take a lot of pride in that. So I appreciate that, and I love doing it. And anytime I can, put my knowledge out there and the things that I know and see, I love doing it. If 1 or 2 or 3 people or nobody's listening, that's great. But I think there are a few, and I appreciate that.
So, Anthony, walk us back a little bit. How did you, in your last couple of years in the NFL, kind of a 2-part question, how did you see the end coming, and did the end come when you thought it was going to come? And then what point did you start preparing for what was next in the off seasons?
Yeah, so, I don't know if I ever had a true end date. I felt like I could play 15 years with the right coach, right team, right place. I tried to be strategic on those opportunities at the end of my career and give myself a chance. My last year in Kansas City, if we had maybe done, won a couple more games either way, I definitely would have still been playing there, or potentially, got an opportunity somewhere else. But, you never know. I mean, look, after year 10, I got released, and I thought my career was over, and not too many guys get to come back and play again. And I got that opportunity with the Chiefs. So it's all about relationships sometimes later in your career. But I knew that year that I had gotten released, which was my first time of that kind of thing happening to me, where, somebody per se doesn't want you anymore in that realm. I kind of embraced that last year with the Chiefs. I smelled the grass. I listened to the crowd. When I came out and got announced as a starter, I kind of just soaked it all in, because honestly, those things are like, you have like these blinders on in your career, and you don't really pull those things in and appreciate it. So those moments were something that I really took advantage of. My last season, and which ended up being my last season, even though I didn't think it was that. That was the relationships before the game, talking to coaches, making the rounds, just doing those kind of things to just be strong. And then, of course, after the fact, again, you're not really sure if you're done. You still try to figure out, okay, can I still play? Does the team want me? And then once it's like, what do you do? And I just kind of went through a process of brainstorming and things like that to just figure out, what avenue is going to be good for me, because I was still young. My kids were young, and, quite frankly, my wife didn't want me in the house on a daily basis as well. So that's kind of the process and how it started, and I've been very fortunate. It was not easy, though. It's not an easy road. I think it's never is. Like I said, sometimes it has nothing to do with, the status or the money or anything like that. It's just about, having that feeling of, you're still kind of, I don't know, important, relevant. And to me, that was just a part of that process.
You raise a lot of good points. And so it's been a decade, right? Since 11 to now 21, that you have been out. What is the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself in the last decade as Anthony Becht, the non-football player?
I think the one thing that I learned is that, even though football kind of made me who I was and gave me the skill sets to be, a great athlete, it also gave me the skill set to be successful after the game without even knowing those kind of things were happening in the process. It's a challenge to kind of, I wasn't Kurt Warner or, Brett Favre coming out where you get the automatic gigs or the barbers, I didn't have that cachet, although I did have a long, successful career and I made a lot of, contacts and people that know me for my time playing. I started from the bottom, and I think that was good for me because it was a grind, it was a strain. I had to do extra, I had to do multiple things, like you kind of busted my chops for. But along the way, people were giving me advice. Just do NFL, don't do college and NFL, and stick to one thing, be great at one thing. You don't want to be kind of in between both. And I just said, you know what, man, I can be great at, I can do both if I put my mind and work to it. That's what I kind of stuck with. And over the last eight or so years doing it, it's really, those are the things that have guided me and helped me from just what I've learned on the field and from the coaches and some of my teammates along the way.
How about let's dive into this a little bit too, because Tony mentioned that you dabbled in some coaching there with the AAF. How often does coaching come up? How much do you think about that? Is that still a path somewhere down the road, coaching for you?
It does. I think about it quite a bit. I am a coach in my mind. I am a teacher. I love teaching, college kids that come out preparing themselves to enter the draft as a tight end. I've worked with a ton of them over the last 6 or 7 years. Most recently, obviously with the AAF, got an experience to, be part of a staff and go through the process and watch guys that teams didn't want in the NFL come in your room and let them know that, you can be different, you can change, buy into the process, and watched all three guys sign NFL contracts to get into training camps that following year. Just super proud of that. There's a sense of having that vision for guys and being able to see if they just trust you and they can buy in, that they can be successful. One of their tight ends, Marcus Ball, played at Ohio State. This guy's been on the roster now for several teams for the last couple of years, and now he's with the Redskins, and he's a contributor. He's the second tight end on that team, and I'm so happy for him and his development. And then, of course, I help at the high school level with my son, and I've been able to, help the offensive line there, the receivers, give them knowledge and things that they normally wouldn't get at that level. And that's rewarding as well because, these kids, coaches, it's just tough to give the guidance that you need. The times and generations change. So do I think about it a lot? I do. Have I turned down some opportunities? I have. Is there an opportunity out there, something that I may want to do that makes sense? There absolutely is. But, we'll see when that time comes or if it ever comes. But I do have a passion of teaching. I think, when you say coaching, it's I think coaching football, but there's a lot of elements that I give back to those players that isn't just football, life skills. And I've learned that from my football camps over the years as well.
I want to touch on your camps because those obviously summer's coming and you're going to get into that. Do you take a sidestep here as your son gets ready to become a college football player? Are you going to say, we're going to chill here and I'm going to watch him play? Or do you go ahead and jump on in? Because in the recruiting circles, Anthony and Brad, I think you agree, he'd be a heavy lean right now toward coaching. That commitment is not quite committed, but
Anthony would be a heavy lean.
He's a heavy lean right now for coaching, right? He's a heavy lean. So you're gonna heavy lean and it's gonna be Anthony Becht, NFL assistant coach, or do you say no, Anthony's going to be in the stands watching Rocco play?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you guys know, I wasn't brought back at ESPN this past season, which was, tough pill to swallow. I thought that I was in a place where I was growing at a pretty strong rate, but in turn, it was a blessing because, I do normally miss my son's Friday night games because I'm traveling on the road. Yeah. And, he came out to me and asked me to be a part of the team some way, somehow. and help out some of the guys and do those things. And I didn't say, look, I'm going to coach and just show up. And he's like, Dad, get off the field. Why are you here? So, I think at this point, absolutely. I don't know what my future brings as far as that coaching realm, but the plan is to watch him, and the plan is to, see what his career and how it unfolds, and the decisions and the mistakes that he makes, and all those things that I remember. I'm very proud of him and what he's done. He truly is. He is tenfold where I was in this moment. And you guys obviously know how my career panned out. And I just know the process and where I was and what I knew and what I was able to accomplish from that process. And I'm amazed at what I see on a day-to-day basis. So I'm a proud dad. I'm a proud coach outside of that. But, at the end of the day, Rocco's going to have to do it himself. He has the answers to the test. He knows what it's going to take. But ultimately, he has to do that, right? So that's for him to decide. And as of right now, he's taken the proper steps, and it's been fun to see that process unfold.
Let's stay there for a second, because I think this is a fascinating discussion, relationship with you two, and the advantage that Rocco had with your experience. But I'm interested how that experience got to him. At what point did you start talking to Rocco about what it takes to get to the next level? Was he able to remember you playing at all? How did that relationship start, and when did you start to see in him that, okay, he's got a little something here, he's got a chance to be a D1 kid?
Yeah, so he does remember me playing. Obviously, it's on the latter part of my career when I was a little more of a blocker, wasn't catching the ball as much, in my premium catching years. But he does remember those last couple of years of me playing. And he saw the work and the sacrifice that needed to be put in, and he's been told that at great lengths multiple times, through his process. After the story behind Rocco is, he started as a freshman on the JV team. The next year, he wasn't physically ready to be a varsity player but that was good because they had a senior coming back, returning starter, and the day before training camp, that starter, unexpectedly, not telling any coach or anyone, transferred to a rival school to play there. And he was thrusted into the starting role. And as a parent, someone that understands the process and know the rigors of, not just being a high school player, but you're the quarterback on a very senior laden team that year, that's a lot of stress and strain. But I'll tell you, he just ate it up, man, and he did fantastic. And that ultimately, after that season, is when we kind of sat down, and he really came to me and said, what's it going to take? And the pandemic hit, and just kind of figuring out how to go through the off season and train and introduce them to a lot of different things. And he just bought in, man, and trusted the process. And now he gets it. He knows, again, he's far beyond me. So again, that's because of the knowledge he's been able to soak in. But he constantly thrives to be better, to get better, and he desperately wants to be successful and compete on the field. And I'm excited. Again, the process has been fun.
So, two questions for you. Just love this kind of stuff. The kid that transferred out, so that's 2 years removed now. Whatever happened to that kid? Did he go D1? What was the whole move there? How'd that pan out? You don't have to mention any names. Just what happened to the kid?
So he went there. They actually already had a starting quarterback who was a year younger, who ended up starting that season, but they rotated and he took some snaps, not the significant majority of the snaps. And from there, he was able to get a preferred walk-on offer to a school, which he did go to, and therefore, after this past season, transferred from, and now he's going through JUCO, possible opportunities. So the mistake was made, and I honestly I tried to be a mentor to him and his family and say, listen, you should stay. This is your team. This is your senior year. I tried to do everything I could to keep him, but again, I can't. These kids get pulled and tugged. So unfortunately, as of today, it's not going great. But he's still trying to live out his dream.
So Rocco, NFL Combine, Rocco. Stripped down, how tall is he? How much does he weigh today?
Yeah, so he's that's been a big topic of discussion for a lot of teams. Some teams not so though. They don't really concerned with that. But he is his official measurement as of today is 6'3". So he's just under 6'1".
Yeah.
He's 192 pounds solid. He's got some tree trunks on him. We built up the lower body because that's what I know that carries you long into your career. So he's very strong. And he's a weight room guy that loves that kind of stuff and knows how to, train his body. Very, very good with his nutrition, just on top of those things. And again, just giving him the guidance. You make the choice. Do you want to eat this or do you want to eat that? And that's the kind of thing. But he bought into we did a program during the pandemic. They couldn't lift as a team. And I pushed his limits on a lot of like crazy stuff that I thought would just be great for him. And it ended up his body took to it and he bought in. And I know he's very thankful for it. He walks into the house and kind of gets big on me and tries to push me around and stuff like that. Because he's got a little muscle now. He's got the abs going and the legs. But we all know how that would go. But he definitely has put the work in. But yeah, his body's. He would look good, and right now he looked good in a shorts contest. He's got the good look. Yeah. He's got the wavy hair too.
He's got some work though before he tries to push you. Right? I know if you showed him the ESPN magazine.
Oh, pushing the tank.
Yeah, with the tank, with all your guy. Right? That thing should be a big blow up in your house. There's Dan. Let that in the house. Just say, Rocco, here's the deal, man. You're not here yet.
Yeah, when you can push the tank, come after. Hey, you know what? Before you even said he had great looking legs, we were flashing pictures of him here. And I was going to say that to you. Looks like he's got the Becht legs, and so you did do a great job there. You mentioned that the young fella that left his high school and transferred now has since preferred walk-on and transferred JC, which opens up a line of questioning, Anthony, in this world that we're living in now of instant eligibility for transfers. And I'd love to get your perspective on that because I would think that when you were a player here, either you or a bunch of you guys that eventually stuck together through the years would have probably hit the highway if you knew you didn't have to sit out the next year and transfer. In other words, it's a heck of a lot easier, and people now are going to run before they do the work. Give me your take.
Yeah, so kind of going through that a little bit here, Rocco obviously being, one of the better quarterbacks in the area. There are schools that are trying to get him to come there, and we don't play that game. We're not doing that, and especially at the position of quarterback, because he knows, and I've told him, he's the heart and soul of the team. Everybody looks up to him. He's the leader. Could you imagine leaving your team, like some others have done and choose to do, which, again, whatever they choose to do, it is. But, that would be devastating. And, kids look up to him. We're a school that's frozen in Florida. You can go to any high school you want as long as they have chairs available. It always seems like the good teams have chairs available. Our school doesn't. A lot of kids want to come play with Rocco, but they can't. We have to develop kids, and that's a big reason why I help out a little bit, because I believe in the development process. That's important. But, he's in this thing. I said, look, figure it out. You don't got a receiver, an extra guy. You go make it happen. Go find ways to get guys to play better. But on the other end, on the college side, like you were talking about, I don't know how I feel about it. I definitely believe there's a positive reasons why kids should transfer. Coaches leave, things happen in that regard. Truly, things happen within the family. They want to be closer to home. Those things are real, and they do happen. There are kids. I was just talking to somebody today telling me about a quarterback from New Jersey. He's transferred 3 times in 2.5 years because this, that, or what. And, the situation isn't right. Like, you got to go compete at some point. You got to fight through. I mean, we see the stories all the time. The guys that hang around and get 1 year starting, they become excellent NFL players, and just because of the 1 year, and they stuck it out. Some guys look, they can't win, they can't beat the guy that's next to them, and they're not going to bank on the fact that he may get injured or hurt, or they may need you, and they move on. So I'm not going to knock a kid for doing it. I have my beliefs and stances. I never judge anybody for their decisions because I never know, but it is very easy for these kids to back out of things if it doesn't go their way, and hopefully the right reasons.
All right, and yet that said, let's take the other side now as dad that's watching his son be recruited, and I kind of want to get your take on what recruiting has been like during the pandemic, because that's been a whole different deal than what you probably expected or what Rocco expected this process to be with some time to go. But as you're starting to help him evaluate these college choices that are in front of him, how much does that factor in how much turnover there is with assistant coaches, with head coaches? You just mentioned coaches leaving. We don't always get a coach to stay for a full 5 years for a player.
Right.
How much does that discussion come in between you and Rocco and the coaches you're talking with?
Huge part of it. It's a huge part of the discussion between me and Rocco. It's a huge part of the discussion between Rocco, myself, and the coach, and try to get as candid as possible to understand, what the coaches, what his goals are, and try to get him to get out of coach speak and give me those answers. And I asked them flat out, all of them, and I want to make sure because I understand that coaches can leave at any point, and there's bigger, better things out there sometimes. And if that's the case, I think it's great. Coaches should go to where they want to be. They all have aspirations and goals. But I want to hopefully make the best choice for my son that I feel like whoever this guy is, he is going to be around and have a good feel about it. And that's part of this pandemic has been tough. There's 10 or 12 schools out there that really like Rocco, but they haven't seen him in person yet. And sometimes the film and everything we've sent to them isn't quite enough. My big thing is, look, coaches have had a lot of time, a lot of free time to not travel, to not do things. You have to do your homework in this recruiting process. You have to lean on people that understand and know the game and that can help you and do your research, because this is a different time. And some schools are very hesitant to make and pull the gun on people. And you have to do your homework. And for the teams that have and the coaches that have, they have built relationships with Rocco and my family, and have found ways to kind of weed through it and make decisions they feel are best for them. And then hopefully Rocco, of course, will make the best decision that benefits himself.
Well, we just flashed up his graphic that has his offers on there. I mean, I don't need to tell you what to do. I saw that Penn and Harvard on there too, buddy. I know. That,
yeah, we get a lot of those comments, like no brainer, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know how those normally work out for graduates of those institutions. You want to talk about, I mean, Dad might have the NFL pension, but Rocco, he'd be cashing them checks for a long time with that Ivy League deal. Just saying. Just saying.
What it does say about Rocco is that, he's taking care of business as a student. And we're really proud of that. Me and my wife have gotten random Facebook messages from teachers that don't really know Rocco about his football side, but rave about him as a student. And those things make us really proud, because ultimately how you gauge your son or daughter is, how people think about them, what they do around when you're not there. And those things we really do think highly of. And the fact that, Harvard and Columbia and Penn and some of these other schools have reached out and, just is really a tribute to the academic side of it, and the fact that he can actually, go to those kind of places. But you're right. I mean, listen, those are conversations too. Like, I mean, you're not the first one that you say jokingly, but some people are really like, man, like that's Harvard, man. Like, he could be a big fish in a little pond and still get an awesome education and potentially do what he wants to do if that's the case after football. So,
yeah.
But these are things that you have to talk to your kid about and go through those things. But I would say this, Rocco believes in his skill set that, he wants to play big time college football. And if that's his dream and that's what he wants to do, then I'm going to support him in every aspect of that.
Yeah. Speaking of big time college football, the NFL draft is coming up. And as we said early on, you wear many hats. Walk us through what you are doing now as far as the draft goes.
Yeah, so, I briefly started, just kind of looking into, some of the top tier players, obviously the tight end position, a lot of the guys that are potentially going in the first round. I'll be flying up to New York, and I'll be with the Jets at their facility for, just a cornucopia of draft coverage, I guess, from Thursday through Sunday, whether it be recaps, after the pick has been made, and just kind of analyzing and letting the fans know, like, what are they getting? And they have a ton of picks, obviously, this year, you guys know, and next year as well. So I'm excited to do that and talk about some of these players that they're going to draft and help build that organization. And, obviously, we have the second pick of the draft. It should be really interesting there. All point to a quarterback being taken. So that'll be the biggest pick, and a lot of conversation will be about that. But I will be in New York for the draft at headquarters, Jets headquarters, and I'll be on across all the Jets platforms talking about them throughout that weekend.
We also mentioned earlier, you mentioned your football camp coming up. So after the pandemic year, I would assume that's different too. You're getting back into that camp that you've run for years. You're doing that again coming up here this summer?
I am. We did have to cancel last year. Unfortunately, that would have been our 15th year anniversary, which just been an awesome road. Just thousands of kids and hundreds of NFL football players that have come through and really helped these kids learn the game of football and the game of life. We are bringing them back this year. We have one obviously at my high school where I went to school outside of Philadelphia, Monsignor Bonner High School. It's now Bonner Prendergast High School, and that'll be June 28th, 9th, and 30th. And again, it's for first through eighth grade kids, and it's all about teaching the skill of the game, letting these kids understand all the positions, having fun, and then of course the life lessons and stories and getting them to understand the bigger picture. And that's been something I've taken personally. Me and my wife, Deanne came up with the idea many years ago, and it was our opportunity to give back, and we cut checks back to the high school. And then of course in Tampa, where we started one 10 years ago, we brought one here, and now we're having it at my son's high school to, again, help raise money for their program. A lot of these schools are self-sufficient. So, why not do my part and help some of these students? And also we have a scholarship fund that helps a female and male athlete of other sports within the school, to give back to those as well. So I have big plans this year. We have awesome sponsors. You can go to anthonybecht.com and check out my website, or go to anthonybechtfootballcamp.com, which is linked on my main website, and you can check out all that information. If you're in the area, you're coming through Philadelphia or Tampa, and you got kids, and then that date works, come on through and put them in the camp, and I promise you they'll have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, because we have a lot of people that listen to this that are certainly outside of the state of West Virginia. So if you're in that general, if you're in Florida, if you're in Philly or whatever, or you want to make sure that your son gets eyed up here by Anthony, right? He's a guy can get you kind of wired in there a little bit. Check it out, anthonybecht.com, Anthony Becht, BECHT.com, anthonybecht.com. All right, so Jets made a little news this week, huh? Made a little West Virginia connection there. So Darnold goes to the Panthers, and Will Greer's in that Panthers situation. So there's always a West Virginia connection, Anthony. Always a West Virginia connection.
Yeah, with Will and the changing of the coaches, those things are always tough for players. I went through that my first year. Bill Parcells drafted me, Al Groh was the head coach, then Herm Edwards and Terry Bradway come in, and you really don't know where you stand and how it'll play out. And it went well for me, but listen, I'm proud of what Will Greer's done. He obviously did a tremendous job at West Virginia, and he just needs to keep fighting the fight, keep working hard, press it. At some point, he'll get his chance, and when it comes, be ready. That's the biggest part of it. But you're right. Yeah, there is a connection there, of course.
All right, listen, we're going to cut you loose. So that's a good update. We appreciate that very much. Any plans to come into the great state of West Virginia at any point here once this thing settles down a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, my wife and her family in Clarksburg, we have to go see them. I got a lot of new nieces and nephews now that, we have to go celebrate. They're getting bigger, and we're missing the growth spurt. So always go through, grab me some hot dogs, man. My spot's over there. And, and it's good to see the people of West Virginia. I love the fan base. I love the people. It's a second home for me. And, maybe find a way to bump into you two as well. Maybe more Brad than you, Tony, because I know Tony just, he gets lounged around town in the car service, and he's in and out of different places and functions, and trying on suit jackets. I know he doesn't have a lot of time, but if you find a way, man, maybe we can get together.
He's got it. He's on. He's got you read perfectly.
Well, maybe we can get him over to Phil's. What do you think? I mean,
sure.
We can get him over to Phil, get him a nice looking suit coat. Sure. Because he was using that fake carnation. He was using that, that button carnation thing, whatever that was.
He knows how to wear a suit.
Oh, I know he does. Yeah. I'm not saying he doesn't, but I say Phil would like to take a shot at him too. Sure. I mean, Phil's got tailors. Phil can just get some material, kind of line them up.
I will put this out there. I do remember a day when a man called me and asked me about that whole how that all works. And
that's right. Like, he hooked me. He was the guy.
Right.
Yeah, he was the guy.
Never has a shirt with a wrinkle on it since then. So that's kind of.
All right, my man. I know you got to run, so we really appreciate your time. Stay well, and hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you being
Okay,
on.
buddy.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Anthony.
You bet. There he is, Anthony Becht. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's right. I did. Yeah, check in with consultant.
We need to. We try and not bother him too much to have him on. We need to
Bother
get
more?
Yeah, we do. We really do. There's a lot of material there with Anthony, isn't there?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we didn't even get into some of the all-time great stories. I mean, he referenced Deanne there a couple times, and one of the last things he did over at Mountaineer Field, we were in the press box there and put the proposal up on the scoreboard for him down at Phil, he and Deanne right
you
there.
That day?
Oh yeah,
I didn't remember that.
Yeah. Well, how do you think the board got up there? Me and Dave Anderson.
Dave Anderson, I knew was there that
Absolutely.
night. And I got on the PA.
Yeah.
Please direct your attention to the main scoreboard.
Yeah.
And then he dropped to a knee at the 50.
She said yes.
She said yes.
We had a really another thing that I always think about Anthony when we talk with him. There was a sponsor of the Big East, Anthony's senior year, Tucker Anthony. They were an investment firm out of New York, sponsored the Big East, and this is one of their all-time great, I think, activation sponsorships that I was ever around. Each school in the Big East put together a team that were stock investors, and they had a mock amount of money to invest in the stocks, and then the team at the end of this whatever the time frame was, 3 or 4 months, whichever team had the most money was going to win a trip to New York City to see their offices, go to the stock exchange, go to Madison Square Garden. Well, West Virginia was unique. You only had to have one athlete on your team. We were the only team. West Virginia was the only team in the Big East that had all athletes. We went all athletes. Anthony was one across different sports.
Yeah.
We were all athletes. West Virginia's team won. So we went on a trip to New York, picked up in a limo there at the airport, went to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, there we are, 6 of us on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange with people coming up saying, hey, who are you people? Because you don't usually get on the floor.
Yeah.
Usually you stay in the public area. This was down. I mean, like people banging into us.
Did you make any trades? Yeah, that's back in the heyday when they
Did
were.
not. No, I was the advisor, but I gave no advice. But Anthony was one of the. I mean, he was into that stuff. It was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it was
a
really
good
neat.
one.
So that's
That's a
always
good
my
one.
Anthony Becht memory.
All right, so here's another piece of business for you folks. We're going to get some questions and thoughts on our text line coming up, but Burdett Camping, as you know, just unbelievable. Talk about sponsor activation.
Yeah,
These guys just don't
Done
stop.
a nice job this year.
They've done a wonderful job. They've had a first team all conference promotion here.
Yes.
So Burdett Camping, the only RV warranty forever dealer in the state of West Virginia. You buy a vehicle there, and that's warranted forever. More than 40 years in business, located in Winfield. And if you want to check out their stuff, go to burdettcamping.com. And that's burdettcamping.com. Here's what they're going to do. So Jordan McCabe has departed from the Mountaineer basketball program. And Phil over at Burdett, huge Jordan McCabe fan.
Okay.
Understands, gets the situation, understands the whole context of it, but still sad to see him go. I'm sure a lot of Mountaineer fans, tons of Mountaineer fans are like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, I want to do this. I want to give $1 for every point Jordan scored in his career at West Virginia. I said, he goes, how many is that? I said, I'd have to look it up. I'm not exactly sure. I had an idea, but I wasn't exactly sure, so I've looked it up. So he scored 364 points.
Okay.
So that's $364. So if you go to Burdett Camping, you'll receive $364 off any purchase of $1,000 or more. So whether that's parts, sales, service, you'll have $364 thanks to Jordan McCabe's $364.
Very nice.
So there you go. Just say you're a Three Guys listener. I want the Jordan McCabe special, and $364 will come off of your bill. Also, the program brought to us by the Mountaineer Athletic Club's Time to Climb campaign. And what that is a campaign to increase the number of folks that donate to the Mountaineer Athletic Club. And it's an entry-level donation, which will cost you $21 a month. So 21 times 12 is $252 a year. And if you sign up, you receive a bunch of stuff, things, elements, and opportunities and things like that. The genesis of this is that WVU, among the Big 12 schools, has the fewest number of people that donate to their respective schools' athletic department. West Virginia's 10 out of 10. And this is an attempt to increase that. So dollars obviously go to the Mountaineer Athletic Club to the WVU Athletic Department, and it's called Time to Climb. The website comes back up next Monday, and might even be this weekend. And the site is WVUtime2climb.com. That's WVUtime2climb.com. Shall we do some textual messages?
Sure.
Senator?
Sure.
Let's jump in. I want to try not to do any. Hey, three guys. Are there any players currently in the transfer portal that you closely are watching to come to West Virginia for football or basketball or soccer or rifle or anything? Brad, we delegated that. Thanks for that. Ben in Charleston, or Charlotte, I should say. Brad has the rifle transfer portal. What are you getting out of there?
Well, it's still too early to tell. People are still coming in and out. We'll keep monitoring it.
Okay, because here on Three Guys, we shoot to give you the truth. Chad in Rochester, New York. Down to about 3 inches of snow in Rochester right now. It's just a joke. Don't take it. I'm from there. I get it. Any chance that Garrett Green beats out Jarret Doege?
Is there a chance? Sure.
Okay.
It would surprise me, though, wouldn't it? You? Got a guy that started a lot of games. That's hard to overcome. But I think you see Garrett Green at some point this season.
I don't. Okay, so let's walk this through. Shall we? Shall we walk this through? Jarret Doege has now started for a full season and 4 games.
Yeah, so I think he's at 14.
Season and 4 games. So for him to lose that job would probably be unlikely unless Garrett Green can show these coaches from now and then in August camp that he is better or can exceed the productivity of Doege. So that's a hard one, I think, to pull off if you're Garrett Green. Not to say that he isn't going to be valuable, productive, and make plays and win games at West Virginia. I think that's all down the road for him. But for him to do that and be able to show that in this limited time, that's a hard one. Is there a chance? Sure, there's a chance. I think, like Brad, the realistic thought, the most likely thing to happen would be that Jarret Doege starts, of which I've got absolutely no problem with. You start the best guy that you have to win games. Who gives you the best chance to win games? And then I do think you start to bottle feed Garrett Green in certain situations and opportunities because he does have a different skill set than Jarret in regard to extending plays. And if Jarret can significantly improve his extension of plays, and as Neil Brown said, he does not have to become a sprint guy downfield. He just needs to have better pocket mobility, just a sidestep, right? Tom Brady can extend plays, but Tom Brady's not running down the field. You side, you step, and it's a second, a half of a second, 3/4 of a second and a half, all as it takes to let that receiver just get open just a little bit more, and then you make a play and you extend the play. So I think that is what Jarret Doege's trying to get better at, and then Garrett Green needs to obviously show that he's mastered all of the other things that Jarret Doege already does.
And I contend, as I've said for a year now, the receivers are the part that can help the quarterbacks the most. The offseason improvement from the quarterbacks will increase the most if those receivers have gotten better. That, to me, is a big jump. I mean, we'll do this in upcoming shows. I mean, you go back and look at Jarret Doege's numbers last year. He had a really solid season. There were some things that Jarret Doege did extremely well, including being pretty accurate most of the time. A lot of those incompletions are traced back to those drops.
Yep.
That's where those two things have to work in concert. And then, and again, Neil Brown hasn't shown this a lot and maybe won't, but there's an opportunity there for some packages for Garrett Green. As you said, he does some things that Jarret Doege doesn't necessarily. Can you find a way to weave that into the system?
Yeah. Again, the whole premise of everything is to give you the best chance to win games. Don't care if you use a Martian. You know, Great Gazoo. Remember Great Gazoo from Flintstones?
That's a good reference.
You remember him?
Sure.
Like, had big head. I think he had antennas. Green.
And green hat or some kind of headgear.
Headgear with, like, I don't care if the Great Gazoo plays quarterback. I don't think Neil Brown does either. He just wants to win the game. At the end of the fourth quarter, all he wants is more points than the other team. So if it takes one guy, two guys, a Martian, Great Gazoo, do it, whatever it takes.
If there's anything that Neil Brown has shown us, it's that he's not afraid to make a change at the quarterback position. I mean, he has done that. So that's why it wouldn't surprise me to see multiple uses in there. But again, when you have experience and you've performed, that's a hard thing to overcome. Now, if Garrett Green ends up starting early in the season, that'll tell you something. If he has the ability to beat out a guy that's played as many games as Jared Dagey, that tells you something too.
Nelson texts, I'm not concerned about the games not being competitive if the playoff is to be expanded to 8 or 16. What I'm concerned about is the regular season losing magic. What makes college football great is the fact that each game is important. I felt the 4-team playoff has already minimized the importance of the regular season, and an expansion would only make college football seem more like the NFL. Just my thoughts.
I would say this, though. I would look at it from this perspective. If you're West Virginia and you lose 2 games early in October, you're most likely out of the conference hunt.
Absolutely.
So therefore, every game does not matter from that standpoint forward based on if we're talking about winning championships and entry into a playoff. If, however, even if you just expanded it enough that conferences, Power 5 conferences, received automatic bids and the Big 12 championship's still alive as a carrot out there, I think that increases the interest and the likelihood that games are important as you move through the schedule. And I think I would equate it to baseball. I mean, people lost their mind when they put the wild card in. Lost their mind. But what has the wild card done? The 2 wild card slots have done what? It's allowed more fan bases to be engaged longer into the season. It hasn't diluted anything. It's given fans a chance to root longer for your team because you have a chance to keep playing at the end of the year.
Yeah. I agree, Nelson, with what Brad is saying. I think that it would give you more of an opportunity to have a heartbeat to make the postseason. So I do think that there would be actually more interest the longer the season went on. And
because real quick, I'm sorry, what happened last year with Oklahoma's early loss and the Big 12 was out of the Final Four playoff mix early in the season, right? They were totally written off on the national landscape. If you have an automatic bid on the line for the Big 12 conference, that's not the case because someone's getting an entry into the postseason playoff.
And Nelson, you said if the playoff is expanded to 8 or 16 teams, you can take away the if on the 8.
Yeah.
It's happening. Mike Oresco, who's the commissioner of the American, basically said that this week. And it's a done deal that hasn't been announced. It's 8. So you can consider it 8 the next time this thing comes around. Next up, texter asks, suggestion for future guest on Three Guys. John Flowers with an update on what's ahead for Best Virginia 2021. No, I don't think so. I don't think that'll happen. I mean, I talked to Flowers.
Where's Flowers? He was somewhere exotic when you talked to him this week.
He's in France. He texted me, and I knew I was in trouble. He texted me, and he says, how's it hanging? ? So I text back and go, here we go. What do you want? And he says, I need a partner. So you knew what's coming. So I don't know. I mean, so John's in France.
Did you ask him if he was eating? Because that's where he had the food problems before when we talked to him. He wouldn't eat.
Yeah, so John's in France. He's not coming in this studio. COVID related. I think he's about 3 to 4 years before he would be cleaned up in order for me to have him into the show, I think. I mean, not happening. Kevin Jones, completely fine with Kevin. Deshaun wants to come in. Totally good with that. Flowers, about a 4-year quarantine. So that'll be about the extent of that. He knows how I feel. I mean, there's nothing I wouldn't say that I just said that I wouldn't say to John. About 4 years away from seeing him here. Those other guys he hangs around with, I mean, KJ, totally good. Deshaun, totally good. Dave Ryan does their podcast for him because those guys have no technical expertise whatsoever as far as the aspect of pulling off a podcast. I mean, we'd even let Dave come in. But Flowers, about a 4-year suspension. About that deal. Texter says, Casey in Kanawha County. March was a rough month between the abrupt end of the basketball season and a few noteworthy departures. I think we could all use your Don Criqui impersonation. I see no symmetry, Casey, as to what I could give you there on the departures. I mean, maybe if Dean Steinkühler would have left, we could give you a little Criqui, but other than that, not happening. Good. You got to be serious. Jim in Columbia, Maryland, just wrote an email that's longer than Moby Dick. I mean, what are we doing here?
What are the highlights of it? Do the Cliff Notes.
Come on, Jim. I'm going to read. I'll start it. Thank you for reading this on the air, and I'm only texting it because I could not find an email address or a book publisher. One of the two. All right, here we go. Love the show, as it always allows us out-of-towners to stay connected to all things WVU. I'm a former Mountaineer football player, West Virginia graduating class 82. Since I preceded Tony by a couple of years and spanned both Signetti and Neyland, I'd be glad to grab a beverage and swap stories when appropriate. For instance, Tony referenced once the first meeting when Coach Neyland addressed the team. I was at that meeting. Okay, so this is good.
Yeah.
All right, I am going to read it.
You jumped ahead, you ran your mouth, and now it's something that's really good there. Well, so apologize to Jim.
Well, I was always going to attack people that write long emails.
I know. Now apologize because now
he should feel good.
He's 3 sentences in, and now you're engaged after you just ripped him. So say apologize to Jim in Columbia, Maryland, that he's now got a good email here you want to read.
All right, I'm sorry, Jim.
Yeah, jeez.
Never happen again.
Thank you.
Just kidding.
It will on the next email.
They just scare me. I mean, you can sit over there. You don't have to. I mean, here we go. Thank you for the email. I really do appreciate it. I'm sorry I attacked you, Jim.
Okay, now go on. So he was in the first meeting that we've referenced many times.
Yeah, so Neyland's first
kicks
meeting.
The chair. Kick the chair.
Coach Neyland addressed the team. I was at that meeting. Can share any details you want. As an 18-year-old kid in the meeting room in the Towers basement, we didn't know what to expect nor what to make of it afterward. Ollie, Donnie Stemple, Daryl Talley, Andre Gist, Curlin Beck, Mike Dawson, and that crowd, all of us were freshmen in Towers at the same time. Coach Kurlav, Trickett, Condino, Stevens, Donnie Young, especially Coach Tranquil, all remembered fondly. Remind me to tell you about Kurlav and loaning me a big chew of mail pouch just before practice on the turf at Old Mountaineer Field. Oh, that sounds like vomit. Yeah. That sounds like a vomit situation. Huh? Coach Saban was the defensive backs coach, so he was in that transition. Couple stories there, but as a number 3 wideout going against his number 1s and number 2s every day, not as many of those are fond. I can share with you stories of the old weight room and the stalactites coming from the ceiling in the old stadium. How the locker room actually shook when Mountaineer Nation was getting fired up for pregame and at halftime. Well, how cool is that?
That's cool.
And how the toilets in the locker room were lined up against a concrete wall on a concrete floor with no privacy dividers. Oh, I can't say the next piece. It deals with what he just mentioned and hemorrhoids, so I'm not saying that. Some things you just can't unsee even after 40 years. Right. That's fine. See, now this is why I have to kind of read this through. As a walk-on, I was promoted to dress for the first time against Tulane in 79. That year, we went from gold helmets in 78 to the new white ones in 79. Anyone who had not traveled or dressed yet still had a gold one. On game day, the equipment manager must have realized I was about to play, so he went to my locker room, and my helmet still had wet paint. During pregame neck stretches, my helmet stuck to the AstroTurf. I didn't care. So he went over, put the head down, paint stuck.
Awesome.
To be on that field as a Mountaineer, you could give me a pink tutu as long as it said West Virginia on the front. More where these came from when we can share a beer, my treat. Note, I love the boar motif on the podcast, not because of the specific hunt or details, but because in West Virginia, real Americans can actually talk about guns and shooting animals without being shunned by the vocal minority. Even when you talk about using a machine gun from a helicopter. As an adopted West Virginian like Tony, I'll always be proud of the Mountain State and our people. And I always get chills when the pride of West Virginia breaks the circle during simple gifts. Like every day, it is a great day to be a Mountaineer. P.S. The other week, I sent my time to climb payment, and I'd forgotten to use the reference code for the signed Hoops poster. If there are any remaining, it would be nice to have one sent my way. Thanks. Yes, Jim, absolutely. You provided interest and entertainment. I will call the folks over there to make sure that you get a poster. And thank you for signing up to Time to Climb. And Jim, I apologize for Brad attacking you before I was about to read this email, telling me that it was too long and that I shouldn't read it and spend that time. You made my day, Jim, despite Brad opposing you.
That's one of your all-time classics. You weren't even 2 sentences into that, and you liked it after killing it, the poor guy.
Well, because he mentioned that meeting with Nealon. Nealon kicked the chair.
But that's the whole point of the exercise here is that don't rip just based on the length. Read the thing and then make a decision. Don't go on and on about how long it is, and then 2 sentences in, go, oh, this is great.
So you want me to start him and then just say I'm not reading anymore?
That'd be fine.
Okay. Here's another long one. Hello, TC, Senator and Uncle Hoppy. Hoppy's not here. Hoppy's in abstention. This is Tommy Boy from Independence, West Virginia. During your last episode, the Senator never really mentioned much of his analytical expertise since the basketball season ended. I realized that analytical expertise will come into play when you, TC, goes on this hunting expedition excursion in Monroe County. I think the Senator should have some prop bets for listeners to take part in for the following props. How many yards did TC kill the massive boar? 20 yards or more versus taking the under.
This is very good. Very good.
Does TC use a scope? Yes or no? The weight of the massive hog, 250 pounds or less, or the over? How many shots did TC take? 2.5 or more? Did TC have his shin splintered by the massive boar? Yes or no? Did the TV commentator and his hunting guide say, OMG, I can't believe he did it? The Senator will have a field day for creating all these props. He'll be excited when his $1 to $5 prop bets win, and that he can make enough money to take his family out to that Mexican restaurant of his choice. Now, people do know you go to that Mexican restaurant on your Friday. That's what you do on Fridays.
We pick up during the pandemic here. I don't need to do any prop bets. Those are outstanding.
Also, Uncle Hoppy can get the real answers from TC after he slaughters the true beast of the East on why he hunts boars, especially with his questions that utilizes 3 levels of analysis he uses while talking with politicians to uncover the real truth on his great Coffee Clutch program. Like I said, TC, make sure Dal Sparks takes awesome pictures of you with the slaughtered hog. You can start selling these framed autograph pictures as another fundraiser for the Mac Club like y'all did for the 5 senior autograph picks. I love your show. You guys rock.
Excellent email. See, you would have ripped that based on just length. That turned out to be outstanding. Well written, great content, had some humor, and some tremendous prop bets in there.
Getting close to the hunt. 3 weeks away. You coming?
I don't know. Probably not.
You know the opportunity's there.
What, for me to go?
Yeah.
I would like to go just as a arbiter of how it takes place, because I don't think we get the full story, especially if there's a TV crew. There's a lot of editing done, airbrushing things.
Oh, you'll see.
Filters used.
So I was talking to Dave, who's organizing the hunt, and he kind of gave me, okay, so how's this going to work? Well, you're going to get down there Saturday. By the time you get down here, it'll be almost dark. He said, we'll get a fire going outside, and we're just going to sit around and shoot the crap on Saturday night. I said, so we're going to shoot the crap on Saturday night. He goes, yeah, nice fire, just get to know each other, all that kind of stuff, group of guys there, so you're going to shoot the crap. I said, so we're going to shoot the crap till we run out of ammunition. Then we're going to go to bed, get up in the morning, have breakfast. He's going to cook. Probably going to have boar. Completely lean. He says, unbelievably lean. We're going to bring that down. And then we're going to go find out which hog. We're going to go hunt the hog. See, you want to identify. I might get some practice shots in on Sunday, early before
you get some shots up.
Get some. Hugs always says,
you gotta get shots up.
You gotta get shots. I mean, I got access, so I'm gonna get some shots up. Kind of hone things in on the scope, and find out which one of those hogs I want to take down, and then that'll be that. Go out there and knock the hog down. Bring in a cooler. Going to bring some of the meat home. Will you have some?
We'll see.
He says it's really good.
I'll probably try a little bit.
So, yeah, we'll have that all documented.
I've got a lot of questions, but we'll save it till we get closer to the date.
Hey, guys, Brian in Williamstown. I have a shout-out I'd like to give to all of you, plus a proposed bet. Oh, that gets the Senator's ears up. First, I want to thank you all again for all the great products you throw out there each and every week. My wife has been at the Cleveland Clinic for a week now, and I've had to make multiple 3-hour trips to and from, so it's nice to have some great material to listen to make you laugh. And so I thank you all again for that. Even Hoppy's little coffee clutch thing that he hosts every now and then. Does he still do that show?
Tuesdays, Thursdays, every other week.
I've missed it for a few years. Now the bet I have is related to Hoppy's show. If Tony is able to bag a boar on his trip, then Hoppy needs to try some fried cicadas.
Oh.
Just ask him about those little critters from his show last week. I think it's a fair trade. What do you guys think? Thanks again, Let's Go Mountaineers. Yeah, I think that's fair. So if I get a boar, then Hoppy has to eat some fried cicadas.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to speak for Kercheval, but I mean, you're the one that bragged and brought up the boar. It's not like somebody here challenged you to go get a boar. So I don't think Hoppy's under any obligation to have to do something like that just because you ran your mouth about getting a boar. But I'll let Hoppy answer for himself. That's my thought.
Since you've probably been the ringleader in all the criticism, we should probably have you involved in something too. You're going to skirt out of this like Bill Murray at the end of Caddyshack, just run off the course.
Same thing. I didn't
press
bring it
the
up.
Boom.
This was totally unsolicited. You just out of the blue started yapping about wanting to take down a boar. No one said anything about a boar. No one challenged you about a boar. We only reacted. We didn't bring it up. You just randomly brought it up one night.
All I said was, if I'm going to kill something, I want something that potentially could run at me and hurt me. I think after I get done with this boar, like coyotes will be my next thing.
Well, that may be, but I still will say that the boar is not going to be running at you. So the original premise, we're already so far off another road. That road continues to be open, and you haven't gone down it yet, nor will you go down it on this hunt.
You don't know
that. That boar's not going to be charging you.
If
it's charging you, you're not taking it down. One of the professionals there will have to step in if it's charging you. It's not charging you.
That would be so awesome if it turned and started coming.
I would be beyond giddy. If there's video footage of that thing turning, like you fire a shot and you miss, of course, because you don't know how to shoot a gun, you're going to miss, and it startles the thing, and it realizes you're coming after him, and it says, who's this? And it turns on you and just starts snarling and running at you. Now, I don't want it to actually take your shin out like you alluded to, but I would be beyond giddy. That would be the greatest scenario.
Kercheval's the one with the shin. He's the one that's...
I don't want you to actually get hurt, but I do want it to charge you. And I want someone else to have to step in and shoot you. Not you. Someone else to step in and shoot the boar, preventing you from getting injured. That would be the ultimate. That would be the best content.
That would be the ultimate embarrassment for me if I had to have, like, someone come and shoot the pig for me.
Yeah, because you panicked because it's running at you. I want to be like a big defensive lineman that's faster than you thought. Gets that 400-pound just rumbling right at you. You just panic.
Bam! Down it goes. Hey, three guys, there wasn't an episode with over-unders for basketball, but I charted the football over-unders from that season during the preview episode in September and how they all turned out. Just saying. Old Scopes Caridi was on the money for almost all of his predictions. Thank you. I love the show.
I don't believe that.
He sent an attachment.
No verification.
He sent an attachment.
Well, what's almost all? Like 50%, 60%, 85%?
I finished 8-1-1.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
You finished 7-3-1. And Harvey finished 4-4-3.
What were you?
8-1.
9? Why did I do more than you?
I probably didn't pick one where it said how many games West Virginia wins. I probably...
Soft. Well, I didn't know we could abstain. Well, okay, this summer I'm going to abstain from some. The ones I don't like, I'll just abstain from.
No, I recused myself on the question of does 7 wins for West Virginia. Of course I would, I can't go that route. I picked on number of quarterbacks played. You and I were both correct on that. The over-under was 2.5. We both went over. Stills Brothers sacks over under 1.2 per game. I went under. I was correct. You went over. Leading rusher over 45 yards per game rushing. All three of us hit that. Which is more, Oscar Tshiebwe rebounds per game or total rushing touchdowns this season? I went rushing touchdowns. You went Oscar's rebounds per game.
That should be a voided bet.
No.
Didn't finish the season.
No.
So I'm taking that loss off mine. Voided the season. How do we know? Didn't finish the season.
No.
Voided
Tackles,
bet.
it's a rebound average. It wasn't total rebounds.
Void.
So you're in a better situation because he played the non-conference games where you're going to get more rebounds.
He would have gotten better as the season went. Void the bet.
Tackles
Didn't
for
have a
loss,
minimum number of
interceptions
games.
over under. I got that one. You got that one. Listener over unders. In the first game, 4.5 players to score a touchdown or more. I went over. I was correct. You went under. 11 players from the state of West Virginia to play this season. We both went over based on the Neil Brown mentioned index, which we need to bring up. Over under 39% on third down conversions. You went over. You were correct. 6.5 total sacks versus Eastern Kentucky. I went under. You did not give a pick. So that's why it was like some of them you didn't give a pick. There's one I didn't give a pick either on 39% on third down conversions. So we'll close here with this. We had Neil Brown on Sportsline last week, and I kind of screwed up because I explained to him that we were monitoring him and everything he says in press conferences on the Brown Mention Index.
I think you can take out the word kind of.
I tell you what, you've had me apologize twice now during the show.
I mean, it is what it is.
I screwed up, and I let him know that we were listening and monitoring him on a spreadsheet every time he mentioned a player's name because that becomes the Brown Mention Index of who he thinks. He comes totally clean during the interview and goes, well, guys, he says, I know the fans aren't the only ones listening to that. I know the players listen to what I say, too. So he's throwing breadcrumbs out there to some players to either give them a push or let them know that he appreciates what they're doing. So I think the Brown Mention Index is going to go the way of the Studebaker. Not going to manufacture it anymore.
I think I disagree.
Well, here's why. Here's my thought process. I think it's tainted. If he knows we're playing that game, it'll never be accurate. So what I'm thinking is this. We do something a little bit more involved. Where, and I don't know what it is yet, but it's something that we monitor what he's saying without giving him the opportunity to know that he's being monitored.
I will say this. There are some last year that contended that certain things were said at times for messages other than just fan-based. Some contended that last year.
Yeah, that was you.
Oh. I think there's still value there. Because there's no need to send a message for somebody that's not going to play very much. So the people that, whether he's mentioning it because the performance was really good, or he's mentioning it because he's trying to send a message to certain players, there's value there, right? If a guy hasn't risen to the point where he's getting a message sent to him, then he probably wouldn't warrant mention on the Brown Mention Index anyway. Follow me there?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's still some value in following it.
Okay.
We'll have to see. I think we monitor before we release results. I think we continue to monitor and see how the next couple of press conferences
I just
go.
don't want him playing us. Like, I don't want to come out like, hey, here's some Brown Mention Index results, and he's sitting over there in his office going, right?
I think once he gets into the practices and the stuff, he won't be as concerned with trying to play us. He'll get some info. I think we got to watch it.
As we close here, Jonathan Taylor Kennedy, our producer, sent me some tweets that just came out apparently today from the Best Virginia TBT team. They announced their new head coach. James Long will serve as the head coach. James is the head coach, highly successful head coach at WVU Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Tallman from over at the high school here, Morgantown High, will return as an assistant coach. And
good staff there. I like that.
And lastly, how about this? Deshaun Butler will join the team as an assistant coach.
So he will not be playing.
He will not play. He will be as an assistant coach.
Well, he started that career path, right?
Sure.
Assistant up at Wheeling University.
That's a really good. That's a good staff.
It's a real good staff.
That's a real good staff. Very good. Happy for those guys. Hopefully, John Flowers won't infect the entire team this year and force them not to be able to play in the TBT. That's why there's a 4-year suspension for John from this program. Even though we're vaccinated, we don't want John near us. Lastly, isn't it about time Charleston announces that they're supposed to be hosting that TBT?
I would think that's coming pretty soon.
That was supposedly a famous last words done deal.
I would think that's got to be coming soon.
Yeah. Okay. We received some really fantastic work from one of our listeners, WVU stats guy.
Oh, yeah, we did. That was very good.
He gave us some great information on current WVU receivers and how they project out based on the success of past great WVU receivers. Where do they fit in the mix in their development? We'll spend some time on that coming up in a future show, maybe next week. We'll also have a good guest that we're working toward, efforting, as they say in certain circles. We're efforting toward, I think it would be a really fun, interesting, insightful guest. We'll get with that. Covers college, the NFL side of things. It'll be fun to do. We'll have that coming up. So we'll be back at some point next week. Thank you so much for listening. This has been episode 282, A Visit with Anthony Becht. Appreciate Anthony for joining us. For our producer-director, Jonathan Taylor Thompson Kennedy, thanks for being with us. For the Senator, we're out. 3 guys before the game. See y'all.